MaXXXine, the final movie in the X trilogy. I thought this was fantastic. I think the like 80s Hollywood setting adds so much to this.
I'm going to break your little heart. I thought this was cack.
What?
I didn't. Cacked maybe is a bit of a strong word. I don't think this was anywhere near a patch on the first and second.
Okay.
This is my least favourite out of the three. There's some good bits, don't get us wrong, but I found it very... In fact, I predicted it on the last friggin' film, remember?
And the annoying thing, we'll get to that later regarding who the killer is in it, but that annoyed me as well because I had that in my head the whole movie that you were going to end up being right.
This, James, let's be honest, we are a horror channel. This wasn't a horror night. This was a detective noir kind of thing with a couple of interesting kills in it, I'll give it that. But I didn't feel suspense or horror really. Not like I did with the last one.
I have to give you that. I think it's definitely a lot lighter on the horror than I was expecting. It's, I think, as heavy on the gore as the others are, but like tonally, it's very lighthearted. It's more of a comedy almost. Like there's a cool mystery going on, but like it is very funny. It's a very funny film. I really wasn't expecting that.
I love me a bit of Kevin Bacon, almost as much as I love a bit of Nick Cage. But in this, he's almost a caricature. A great performance, entertaining, but he hams it up. He really does. And I can't remember the actor's name, your guy, Moff Gideon.
Giancarlo Esposito. I loved him because I think he often does just play the same character in everything. So it was nice to see him in this do kind of like, he's almost doing like a Saul Goodman kind of character as her like agent. I loved him in this. Kevin Bacon, he's like an evil Daniel Craig from Knives Out. Like he's like the southern PI character. Stole every scene he was in. Every second he was on screen, I was smiling.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I thought his performance was great, but like I say, it just felt, in terms of what I expected this movie to be, it felt out of place. Like I was watching a really cheesy B movie at points.
That's fair. I think, yeah, tonally it's not consistent with how characters are portrayed in the other two movies. So I'll give you that as well. I think that's sort of to do with the setting. This is a very eccentric time, so you're going to have eccentric characters, and the movie is very eccentric as well. So I think that's fair.
I'll tell you what my biggest problem with this was, James. We talked about X recently, and the big thing I said about X was that I absolutely genuinely felt for all the characters. It did such a good job of making us care about these porn stars. So when they died, it meant something. The few deaths we get in this movie, other than the video shop guy, I didn't give a toss. I had no connection with them at all.
But that's probably because we only meet some of them for one scene before we see them die, you know? Like often those are brief scenes as well. So yeah, I think that's fair. Like you don't get a chance to connect with many of these characters. I did really love the video store owner. Another great character I thought. I really liked. I thought he really popped on screen. So I was actually quite sad at him dying. But that's the only character we really know.
I'm laughing because you said popped. Testicles.
The violence in this was really shocking. I don't know what it is about it. Like, I don't know if it's even more violent than the last couple movies. Just the way it's shot, I guess. I don't know what it is. But there's a moment where MaXXXine's walking down an alley and this guy comes out to try and attack her. And she pulls a gun on him and then she makes him lie down naked and she stamps his balls and literally bursts them. Like, and you see it all and it was like, wow.
Every man in the theatre that I was in instinctively kind of grabbed themselves.
There was a guttural reaction in my screen to that. It was like, whoa.
I mean, I'm being negative, I know that, but there was positives in this film. I would say the slashing scene of the poor video store.
A back of the neck slash. We don't see that very often, but yeah, that was pretty hard to watch.
But then even when, you know, I don't believe dickhead cops would do that. Oh, look, there's someone who thinks a friend of this character. I'm going to pull down the blanket so they can see the dead body. That was a bit rough. But when they did that, the effects on the slashed eye and stuff looked really good.
Kevin Bacon's death was great. They throw him in a car and it's sort of like an interrogation scene. You feel like they're going to try and pull information out of him, like who is it? Because Kevin Bacon's working for the killer, that they're going to interrogate him, who is it? But they don't. They just like use it to kill him and he's screaming, stop, and they just let it go and he crushes them and the blood spills out of the car and the dogs come over and start eating the leftovers.
Right. So again, positives I'm going to give you. That was a really cool kill. I enjoyed that a lot. But it was a little bit left field all of a sudden. Our agent and some other bloke, and they just straight out murder him.
Well, the other guy is a security guard for the strip club. So that seems a pretty hardcore jump to make.
Strip club security guards are well known for crushing people to death in car compactors.
Zero context of why they're doing this either. How much does he know? You know?
Yeah. Basically, MaXXXine rang him, said, you fancy popping someone's head in a car? He goes, oh yeah, crack on. Yeah, I'll do a bit murder. Yeah.
I really like the Hollywoodness of this. Like, I think Elizabeth Debicki plays like this movie director who's fantastic, I thought, in this spot. I liked how there's like a kind of a chase sequence through like the Universal's like lot, and it culminates in the Psycho Bates house in the Bates Motel. I thought that was really cool. There's a moment earlier in the movie where you see MaXXXine sees Pearl in the window, like the way she saw it in X in the window of the Bates mansion, and I thought that was really, really cool as well. Mia Goth, just incredible as always. I think like she's proven movie after movie in this series how amazing she is. I really like how MaXXXine has developed in this. She's a lot more confident. She's always been kind of confident, but she's, you know, it's overdrive in this one. She's so cocky. Like, she goes into that meeting and she comes out of it going, y'all, but it may as well go home because I just fucking nailed it. Screams at them. You know, I thought that was great. One of my favorite scenes is when Kevin Bacon is like following her in the car, and she gets out of the car with her keys in her fist and just beats the crap out of him. that was a great comeuppance as well.
That scene, the car crushing scene, all that kind of stuff led me to think that we're going to get a twist at the end of this movie, and MaXXXine's character was going to be the Night Stalker. They make it quite clear that the bodies that our dad's kind of doing are not the Night Stalker. That's a different thing. So I thought it would be interesting if at the end of it turns out she was bumping people off because she's crazy, but they didn't seem to go anywhere with that.
I think that's potentially something for the next film, is maybe like MaXXXine's psychological downfall, maybe like a Mirror of Pearl again, you know. But yeah, regarding the killer, the film opens with a shot of MaXXXine as a kid with her dad. Now, you had mentioned in our X video that you thought the dad might be, we both kind of been, you said, oh, do you think the dad's going to be the next one? And I was like, oh yeah. And then the idea of,
don't take it from us, James. Don't
go
take
back and watch the video.
I said, you've edited it well, I know.
He's the Night Stalker, so we
no, you agreed, yeah. Do you think he's going to feature in the next movie then? Do you think he's going to be...
I didn't think about that. I wonder. I wouldn't be against it. I'd like to... Actually, I think that'd be a really interesting element. Maybe he's the Night Stalker.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Trying to cleanse the sin from the world that his daughter's involved with.
Sorry if that's a spoiler for MaXXXine. We'll see. We'll find out. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't have thought of that until you said that. Like, I would have walked into this movie without that idea. The opening shot and the dad is in it. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's going to be the dad. And then as the movie goes on, he is the only person it could be, because it's a powerful man who's hired Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon talks about how rich and powerful he is. He has a connection to MaXXXine. There's not really any suspects in the movie laid out, like in a whodunit. So, like, what other option could it have been? So throughout the movie, I was more and more certain, oh, fuck it, he's going to be right. It's going to be the dad. And sure enough it is. There's something about the performance at the end just didn't click with me. I don't know if it's because he's out of his, like you see in the first movie, the preacher, it's a very brief role of like the preacher on the TV, and it works, but I think when he's surrounded by all these cult figures and he's got these like robes on and he's doing this kind of megalomaniac performance, it just didn't land for me, and I think the last act of the movie is definitely the least interesting of it.
I think it jumped the boat at the end. It just went just stupid, to be honest. And you know, I was with my daughter and my mother said to us, why have all the religious types got shotguns hidden under the cloaks? And I thought, well, that's a good point. Why did they all come strapping bloody cannons? They didn't know the police were coming. Is that just part of the robes, that they have a shotgun strapped to the...
They're cults. They're like a gang almost.
A religious cult, James. A religious cult.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean?
No.
Do you know what I mean when I'm not saying anything? No, I didn't find that element far-fetched, and you want that to have like the big action sequence at the end. I liked two characters we haven't talked about, is the cops, Michelle Monaghan and Bobby Cannavale, who I thought were great as well. There's too much going on. I think if it was just the dad and MaXXXine, that maybe would have worked more than let's have this big shootout kind of action sequence where there's like chaos, you know. And for me, that's the moments of the movie where I don't really remember as much, because I just didn't, it was just kind of happening in front of me, you know. There was the intrigue of the film was gone at that point.
I just think it was a very strange, I wasn't expecting that ending. Like I say, I went into this thinking it's a horror, so that's not typically how horror ends, with a big shootout and guns and stuff.
And it felt like Hot Fuzz.
I was expecting...
Joe Hot Fuzz has like slasher sequences throughout it, but then it ends all actiony. Like, yeah, that was sort of popped into my head at a point as well. It has this weird sort of fake out. It shoots forward and she's like at the premiere and she's a Hollywood star, and then it cuts back and it's like, oh, that was a fantasy, and then she kills the dad, but then that fantasy seems to be like coming true, like she's back on the set of the movie and everyone's praising her for, like, it wasn't like oh, that's not what really happened, this is really happening. It's like, oh, she was like almost looking into the future, you know what I mean?
It was very meta and very, I took it that was her imagining what a future could be. I don't think it's what the future was going to be for her. I hear what you're saying about kind of getting that at the end, but I don't think that James, I just wanted to see people getting heads cut off.
How are they still making the movie with the lead actress murdered? You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. So for me, like comparing this to the others, I would say this is probably my second favorite. I just like the vibe of it, and I really just thought it was a lot of fun. I do get it's not as horror-y as the others.
Rank them for us then.
I would go X first. I think X is like, I don't have a bad word to say about X. I remember really liking Pearl, but not being amazed by it, other than the performances probably. So I put Pearl last, and I put this in the middle. If I go back and watch Pearl, that might change, but for the moment, that's where I land with it.
I'm very definitely X Pearl MaXXXine.
So they just get progressively worse.
I found this a little bit dull, if I'm honest. There's some good bits in it, but
I was, thoroughly entertained. Just for me, it fell apart a little bit at the end. But I was really just having a blast watching it, and I had a smile on my face with the whole thing. I love the vibes, the style of it, the music, great performances, camera work, excellent. So like, yeah, it's a good watch, an easy watch, a fun movie, I felt. And that's our review of MaXXXine. Thank you so much for watching. We review all the latest horror movies in the cinema, and I'll be right back on various different horror movies. We just recently did one on X, so if you want to see what we thought of that movie, that's up on the channel. Hit subscribe, leave a like, and we will see you next time.